Former President Barack Obama rallied Pennsylvania voters in his first in-person campaign event for Joe Biden.
The Dodgers are looking to party like it's 1988. We'll look into the potential for an unusual World Series celebration.
Creating films on Zoom isn't easy. In our first cinema segment, we highlight a USC film student who created an entire film from home, and it's really scary. Annenberg TV News is next.
Live from USC, you're watching Annenberg TV News.
This election requires every single one of us to do our part. And what we do these next 13 days will matter for decades to come.
President Obama bashed Donald Trump at a drive-in rally and reiterated the importance of getting out to vote. Good evening, I'm Evan Fallstrip, reporting from Los Angeles.
And I'm Olivia Novato, also reporting from Los Angeles. Our political correspondent, Samantha Moscow, has more on Obama's message to Pennsylvania.
With just under 2 weeks until the election, former President Obama threw his biggest punch yet at President Trump. He pleaded with people of color and the young to get out and vote, and to send Trump packing.
I get that this president wants full credit for the economy he inherited and zero blame for the pandemic that he ignored. But you know what? The job doesn't work that way. Tweeting at the television doesn't fix things. Making stuff up doesn't make people's lives better. You've got to have a plan. You've got to put in the work. And along with the experience to get things done, Joe Biden has concrete plans and policies that will turn our vision of a better, fairer, stronger country into a reality.
The crowd went crazy from their cars, supporting the former president. The drive-in rally was the Democrats' way to have a socially distanced and safe event. In the car crowd, a group of UPenn students who called themselves the Penn Dems. They were there to drive home the vote for Joe Biden.
It is hype.
Yeah, very exciting. People are dancing. There's music playing. People are bringing signs and honking when it's time to honk. It's everyone's very high energy.
Well, I think Philadelphia is such an important city. It's an 8-1 Democratic city. So if we're going to win the state of Pennsylvania, really turning out the base, turning out all our Democrats here in Philadelphia is just so important on election day.
Pennsylvania is a critical state in the presidential race. The candidate who wins the state gets all 20 of the state's electoral college votes. The winner of the past 3 elections have all won Pennsylvania. In 2016, then-candidate Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton by a small margin. In 2012 and 2008, President Barack Obama won Pennsylvania, coming out ahead of Mitt Romney and John McCain. Voters will have one final chance to watch Biden and Trump go head-to-head in tomorrow's presidential debate in Nashville.
Across the country, voting is taking place via mail-in ballots, early in-person voting, and some are waiting to vote in person on Election Day. The Vote SC organization is doing its part to get out the vote.
We give student organizations their own custom links to TurboVote, try to encourage some friendly competition. I think now more than ever, it's really our time to speak up for issues that we believe in. We have such a huge stake in this election, and it's our future.
There are several ballot drop-off locations around USC. These include the Expo and Vermont Line Station, Denker Recreation Center, Lauren Miller Recreation Center, a Manson Senior Citizen Center, and Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune Regional Library at Expo Park. The communications co-chair of the United Black Student Athletes Assembly shares how important it is for young people to vote.
Personally, I didn't know much about voting until last semester. We've had guest speakers come in through athletics and all that kind of stuff. And I think it just motivated me to want to do something more than just vote and just to, do something for the greater good. I think it's important for college students in our generation to be included in this vote is because this is our opportunity to voice our opinions, our concerns, and this is just us setting up change for the next generation to come.
There are more poll worker applicants than poll worker positions in some cities, including here in Los Angeles. Because of the pandemic, this is the opposite of what was expected. A USC student tells us how a school project inspired him to apply for a poll worker position.
This project was to help educate people on voter suppression, and a lot of that is surrounded by voter intimidation and a lot of issues surrounding people actually going to the polls. In LA County, there's a huge surge of poll workers who want to work. And yeah, there's actually more available than they actually need. But even if I'm not chosen to work, I'm still happy to be on the wait list, and hopefully we'll be able to work maybe future elections.
Here are some places to vote around USC: the Galen Center, Shrine Auditorium, and Bank of California Stadium. These sites will be open from October 30th to November 3rd, Election Day. The deadline to request mail-in ballots is October 27th, and you have to drop your ballot at the post office or an official ballot drop box by November 3rd.
The USC Childrens Shelter provides students who are house insecure with a safe place to live. But Annenberg Media's Anyway reports the shelter has struggled to keep its doors open during the pandemic.
This is the USC Childrens Shelter, a place where homeless students can find housing. But the pandemic has posed big challenges.
Being a student experiencing homelessness is exponentially more stressful, and then being a student experiencing homelessness in a pandemic is unimaginable. And so there's just a lot of added pressure and time. And so we're doing whatever we can to help out with that.
Volunteers are dedicated to keeping the children's shelter running for any LA-based college students who are homeless. Residents get free housing, meals, and on-campus resources.
And now we're entering the shelter. Here is the boys' room. They're 6 feet apart, and they also have their own closet. Just finally have our kitchen where all the food happens.
To ensure residents' safety and well-being during the pandemic, this semester, instead of the usual 6 residents, the shelter is housing just 3.
Resident has their own desk, so there's not much of a shared space. They're also required to wear their face masks when they're within 6 feet of the other person. They also participate in a daily COVID symptom tracker, so they do a daily temperature check, and if they're experiencing symptoms, we know right away. And we have also developed an isolation space and quarantine plan in case someone does start to feel sick.
Since Children's Shelter is a student-led nonprofit organization, funding is needed to help its operation. Volunteers held an Instagram bingo fundraiser last week and raised more than $3,000.
There's been a lot of challenges, but I'm really, really proud of them that they decided no matter what, they were still going to open, even though that was COVID, because the university is essentially closed. Bruin Shelter is not open, and they decided, and they were right, is that they're serving a need, and those 3 kids are in a much better place than they would be if Children's Shelter wasn't open.
The Children's Shelter will have more fundraising events in the near future. For now, donors can purchase items from the shelter's Amazon wish list to support students through the pandemic. For Annenberg Media, I'm Anyway.
Social justice is at the heart of a new project in San Diego's theater community. Annenberg Media's Savannah Welch shows us how artists are advocating for change and taking action.
The thing that's sitting on my heart right now is the lack of representation from the top down everywhere in this industry.
3 of San Diego's oldest theaters are producing a new series called We Are Listening. It continues the conversation started in May after the world watched George Floyd die at the hands of police after telling them, "I can't breathe."
Guys, I really just try to set them up as conversations, because I think we missed that. And I don't think we're able, with everything else, how everything else is a rushed way of communication. I think we miss context. We miss body language, we miss cues, we miss the emotion in people's speech when they talk about one thing, or I think we miss all that.
Theaters are dark, so the series streams every other Thursday on the San Diego Repertory Theater Facebook page. They have a following not just here in Southern California. People are tuning in from all over the United States.
There has been a history in this industry of knowing that diversity and that sort of thing, knowing that's something that's important, but it is one of the things that is easily moved down on the priority list as other theater emergencies arise.
The hosts talk with influential Black artists like Jamal Chaston.
Schoolyard nigga. Not some grown-ass white men calling me. I was 9. Maybe they were 11, 12. These were virgins using the word.
Chaston wrote a monologue titled 846. That's how long an officer had his knee on George Floyd's neck.
I felt like it was a way of not forgetting what we had witnessed, right, as a country, as a world. Like everyone in the world saw that image, right? And so I thought it was a way for us to not forget that.
He helped create the Breath Project Festival. This weekend, the festival will premiere a selection of works from Black artists, all running 8 minutes and 46 seconds.
It was more about capturing this moment in time, whether it was about COVID, whether it was about you being separated from family, whether it was about a loss, whether it was about immigration, whatever that might be, that you felt like this moment in time. And so that was the hope, in terms of the work we received.
Everybody roll, everybody roll.
And in this moment, Chasten is encouraged by how the artistic community is coming together, listening, and most importantly, taking action. Savannah Welch, Annenberg Media.
The Los Angeles Dodgers won the first game of the World Series against the Tampa Bay Rays. Rob Parker is covering the series for Fox Sports 1 and says it's a whole new ballgame for reporters and fans.
It's just totally different, and the players are on virtual screens, and you're interviewing them that way, not like the old days where I was in the locker room and people are spraying champagne and jumping around and screaming. It's a scene.
It really sucks. I mean, the only thing I have is that I run outside sometimes and I yell in the top of my lungs. But it would have been nice to actually be there, even if it was just for one game, just one game, where I get a chance to watch them win.
Tonight is Game 2 with around 11,000 people in attendance.
I'm Nevaeh Spivey with Annenberg Sports Media. And this World Series LA Dodgers right fielder is getting a lot of attention. The only African-American player in this World Series just made baseball history. Mookie Betts is the first player to steal 2 bases and score 2 runs in a single World Series game. The Player Alliance tweeted, "This is what fuels our mission to improve the representation of Black Americans in all levels of the sport." J.R. Gamble has written extensively about the lack of diversity in baseball.
It definitely shines a light on African-American players. And it's historic in the sense of what he did that one inning. But I'm sure he'll provide a lot more excitement before the World Series is over.
Only 8% of Major League Baseball players are Black. Mookie Betts says he hopes his example will inspire young Black athletes to come and play ball. Now, let's send it over to Maddie Gannon, who's reporting from Mammoth Lakes, California.
Thanks, Nevaeh. With less than 3 weeks to go until the start of USC's 2020 football season, fall camp is well underway. Cornerback Chris Steele said the defensive team is treating every practice like it's a game.
With Coach T.O. coming in, the whole new staff coming in, they kind of brought that new mindset to where, we want to run through somebody's face every single play. So, just the way they used to talk to us before we even got in pads, I knew it was going to be real physical throughout camp.
First-year cornerback coach Dante Williams said he and safeties coach Craig Nivar fit together well because they feed off one another's energy. USC safety Talanoa Hufunga said the defensive coaches did a great job helping them transition from Zoom meetings to on-field practice.
Having Coach Nivar by my side and Coach Orlando and helping us just ultimately just learn how complex this defense is and making moving parts make them move and ultimately get to the offense as fast as possible. So, they preach 2 things, run and hit.
There will be no people in attendance at the Coliseum this season, but fans can purchase a cutout with their picture to be placed in the stands or even on the field for a single game or the whole season. All proceeds from the cutout sales will go to support Trojan student athletes. That's all for sports. Now back to Evan.
The Academy Museum of Motion Pictures announced film historian Jacqueline Stewart as the new Chief Artistic and Programming Officer. Stewart specializes in African American cinema, and a USC School of Cinematic Arts professor shares why this hire will be so crucial for the museum.
It's a structural change. It's not, just about the representation of people of color. She is going to have an active role in what gets curated, what gets exhibited, how cinema's history gets presented. So I think it's a great change.
Stewart will join the museum in January prior to their public opening on April 30th.
we are excited to announce a new segment called Cinema, highlighting Trojans doing remarkable things in the film industry. This week, we feature Zach Villanueva, a USC film student who directed and wrote his latest project, C, with an exclusively virtual team. Villanueva directed the film at home with his family as the cast. His mom is the main character. His production crew was entirely on Zoom.
Obviously, they're not on set to help me move lights, but the cinematographer can always make a suggestion, maybe put the camera over here or tilt this light a certain way or something. But that was definitely the hardest part, and just showing what the shot looks like to them, because they're on Zoom, and we'd use an adapter to plug into the camera so they can actually see what the camera sees. Mostly, I was fascinated by the idea of this invisible enemy that this character has to face in this film, and I felt like it matched the times that we were in. With COVID, this is this invisible enemy that's out there that's tormenting people. So that's really the biggest inspiration that inspired this story.
I thought it was really incredible how he was able to collaborate with all of his team just like through Zoom. That's really impressive.
Yeah, it's impressive to see how, despite the pandemic, SCA students are still active.
That wraps it up for us on this Wednesday. Thanks for tuning in.
From all of us at Annenberg TV News, have a good night.